Welcome to Building Nebraska, a podcast for dreamers and doers. We'll ignite your passion for entrepreneurship while highlighting those who turn ideas into reality. Building Nebraska is brought to you by the Angler Agribusiness Entrepreneurship Program at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Today we are in the Nebraska Sandhills, and I am joined by Tim and Greg Nollette here at Niobrara Valley Vineyards. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having us, Rebel.
Well, we're sitting in a beautiful new space opened here in the last year or so, but I want to lay the foundation a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your involvement here in the community and life pre-winery.
Well, I think we can start with saying that we have a root established here, so we've been Tim, correct me, I think it was our great-great-grandfather.
5 generations.
That actually founded the town of Nenzel. And so it was in the mid-'80s in the ag crisis that we ended up, our dad passed away suddenly, and our 4 brothers, Tim and I and our 2 older brothers, Lewis and Neil, decided that we wanted to call this place home. And so Tim, he actually was teaching at St. Edward, Nebraska, got out of his teaching contract to come back, and he was taking care of doing all the chores that Dad had, taking care of some sows, farrowing and the cows, and basically then Mom was all alone, and so he come back, and I was still in grad school, and so that's what brought us back. And for some reason, everybody told us that we should probably leave this country because, through the Ag Depression, times were tough, and they said that we should probably sell whatever Dad had and go about our lives, and we decided not to. And so I think because of that, wanting to stay, I guess it's been very good for us. So.
Well, and the both of you had careers in agriculture education as well. I know that was very important to you. Can you talk a little bit about that and that sort of footprint that you've had in the community as well?
Well, we had when we purchased this land and stuff, so it was 800 acres, but at that point in time, there would have been previous generations that would have made a living off of it. But anyway, so we decided that we had our day jobs. Greg was ag teacher at Valentine. I had multiple. I did ag and I did science then at Cody Kilgore. But yeah, so we had our day job. And then we would work then the weekends and do things then on the ranch. And had opportunities to probably motivate and develop other students to kind of, go on and kind of push them to their limits, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think when people think of the Sandhills, they think of cattle. They might not necessarily think of wine to top of mind, but tell us about how you started growing grapes. Wine really wasn't your main goal at that point in time, was it?
So probably it was in, 2002. So George Johnson of George Paul Gourmet Vinegars, he approached us because he was going to start a vinegary at Cody, Nebraska, and so he was looking for producers basically to help grow grapes so he could produce wine and turn it into vinegar. And that process involved other neighbors, in the area. And when we started growing grapes, we didn't. It was totally new to us, but we were always seeking alternative enterprises, I guess, to make a small ranch basically in the Sandhills be sustainable. And so we've done different things over the years. We've we raised we had farrow to finish hogs, we had raised registered quarter horses, we did chuck wagons, steak dinners, and Tim started catering way back 30 some years ago, and so we were always looking for different ways to create revenue on a small ranch. And so I think what it evolved from after we started growing grapes and George was making vinegar out of our wines, his consultant Ed Swanson said that basically this wine's too good to spoil. And so George called me up and he asked me, can I sell wine? And so I guess my answer to that, I didn't have an answer to that question because I never sold wine in my life before. And so anyway, so that started the winemaking process for Niobrara Valley Vineyards. George Paul Vinegary actually was the place that we got our establishment in the wine business. George was our mentor. And from that time on, basically, it just began to grow.
So how long was it from the time that you established that your wine was too good to spoil that you actually started selling it to other people?
Well, George, we've actually built our own processing facility and also having a tasting room. That was 2014. And then 2 years prior to that, we were actually started selling then some wine at that point in time. But it was made then at George's establishment in Cody at George Paul Vinegar, and his business was growing, our business was growing, and so we just felt that it was best then that we do our separate thing in terms of where it was made, and still work together and making wines for him to make into vinegar, as well as in making wines then to sell. And so the very first year that happened, we had a hailstorm that completely wiped out our grapes. So, we purchased grapes that first year, and then we also then finding something to fill the tanks, so we also started then making some apple wine at that point in time.
Talk about growing grapes in the Sandhills. Are there any specific challenges that are unique to this region, and how have you gone about figuring out what varieties work best in this area in particular?
So I think if you're familiar with the Sandhills, our climate basically is we have the extremes. And so you listen to the weatherman and he'll tell you our average temperatures, and how we get the average temperatures because they take the high and the low, and very seldom we have the average. So to try to grow anything in the Sandhills is difficult. Not only that, because of our semi-arid climate, and the wind blows, and our rainfall is, we're in a low rainfall precipitation zone. So with all that, those challenges basically, so we just use knowledge that we used, I guess, from our college years at the University of Nebraska. So we noticed that you could grow trees, because they said used to be you could never grow a tree, that'd be for your generation. But since they started using the landscape fabric basically to plant trees, well, you can actually grow trees and have trees in a generation. And so that's what we did with our grapes. We planted them just like we planted our landscape trees, or shelter belt trees. And so we didn't go by the book, so to speak, because we were in a different region. So my master's degree was in microclimatology and irrigation management. So I guess with that, and that being involved in the Nebraska LEAD program, so give us knowledge basically to how to actually grow grapes in Nebraska, in addition to, other university resources that we used at Scotts Bluff Station at that time, because they grew grapes in the western part of the state at that time.
Mm-hmm. We're sitting in front of a very expansive variety of wines. I'd love to know how you develop different flavors, different kinds. What does that process look like? I have to imagine that's a fun one.
Well, it is. That's probably maybe the best part about growing grapes is being able to drink your product. But in any rate, so we have first of all, in order to make good wine, you got to have good grapes. And so that would be the first thing. And then you have to be able to make good wine. And then also we've had then good mentors to help us then, and we simply call them bench trials. And so we're now then you kind of then start, okay, we add a little bit of this wine and a little bit of this, and kind of see what enhances then brings out the best flavor, the fruit notes, and et cetera. So it is a twofold. I mean, it's the science part of it, but there's also then the art of being able to to help us then to blend. And again, that was a good mentors because again, Emily Johnson Knapp was one that really kind of helps us to, for me anyway, helped me develop my palate is being able to recognize good wines.
Mm-hmm. So good grapes, good wine, then you need good marketing in order to distribute. How did you go about promoting your product once you had something that you were proud of?
Well, it started out by just simply knocking on doors. And so to be really truthful about that, most people are pretty hesitant about anybody that's new in the industry. And so you had so the proof was kind of in the pudding, I guess, so to speak. So when you knocked on doors, you had to convince individuals basically that your wine is worthy to be on the shelf. And through the years, I guess we knocked on a lot of doors and we did a lot of wine tastings, and we've been across the entire state. And so it grew from having no retail outlets. I think we have like 92 retail outlets now across the state. And I guess and now instead of knocking on doors, we have people calling us, and where we're at right now with the production and where we're at with our limits and capacity and stuff, we probably established our market to its optimum level right now. Every year we always lose some in terms of people retiring or stores changing managers or or whatever. Then we usually pick up one or two, and so it's been hanging in there at the little 90 plus outlets, starting, I guess it'll be in the process. We've been going 11 years. So we created a market across the whole state of Nebraska. Not only that, but then we have a broker that basically will actually buy our wine, and so we're able to sell it into 38 states in the lower 48.
Mm-hmm.
And if I might add to that, I think one of the keys, so we knocked on the door, but in order then to buy the product, they had to taste it. So we found that if people tasted our product, they found out we had a good wine, and so that makes a sale. So even a lot of times when we do tastings, our cliche is that if we can get them to taste one of our wines, we can sell them a bottle of wine.
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously that was successful, as proven by your distribution now, but did you get any no's, and if so, how did you deal with those?
Yes, we got no's.
Those aren't the fun part.
So you went down the street and knocked on another door. So to kind of look at, so I guess there's more to it than probably that we just talked about. But basically, some of our process of thinking about what stores to go to is basically because some people are actually, I shouldn't say people, the retail businesses basically are some very supportive of Nebraska products. And so those were the doors that we're knocking on. So those people that supported Nebraska products and willing to put a Nebraska wine on their shelf. And so if there was another Nebraska wine in the store, it made a lot easier for us then to get on the shelf than if there was no Nebraska products in the store. So I guess we want to thank the retailers in the state of Nebraska for supporting Nebraska products.
Well, with the growth of distribution also came the growth of your physical facility here. Talk about constructing this building that we're sitting in today and all of the moving parts that went into making this happen.
And well, we were reaching an age. So we were both retired from being teaching, and so we had this sideline, but it was kind of at the point where it was. Greg said it was the tasting room was attached to his house, and he said, "Well, I don't think we want to have a tasting room attached to my house forever." So it was either a matter of then, closing down and just folding up the business or continuing on. Passion was, as I said, about trying to, build something that was do other things besides production agriculture. Or again, we're in the heart of cattle country, and so that will always be here. But it's just another avenue for another business then to come. So that's probably why we decided to go ahead and do this. Of Greg was the brainchild in actually then having the vision to design and to build, this current facility.
Well, I think this is a prime example of build it and they will come. You were telling us prior to the recording that you had maybe your busiest Saturday night ever last weekend, which is really exciting. But I'm sure there were, there's always naysayers on any project. And when you plant a winery in, for lack of a better term, the middle of nowhere, what kind of feedback did you receive to the community, and what gave you the confidence to plant a business like this in the middle of a rural place?
Well, I first say that I think there's a lot of things that helped us. So first of all, I think is because Tim and I were both ag teachers, so we worked with different ag teachers, across the state of Nebraska. So not that we knew all the ag teachers, but basically, we had we were both career ag teachers, and so with that, so we had somewhat of a kind of a break, so people kind of actually knew kind of who we were. Then also we had two older brothers that were priests in the Grand Island Diocese. And so with the association, I guess, with all the contacts that we had across the state with family members in their careers, has created this, a pretty good clientele, just in the fact that a lot of people come because they knew us. And I think the other part is, we are ranchers. We do ranch. We're not great big ranchers, but we do ranch. And I think people recognize the fact that a couple ranchers or cowboys actually doing something different, and our community support is just fantastic. You cannot believe, I guess, the people that love to bring their friends and relatives up here to show them what basically they can see, in the Sandhills. And I guess with all of that, I guess it's kind of like, so we've done a lot of marketing and advertising. So we make it a point then basically to go to different festivals and shows, because you gotta get your product out. And like say, then some people have actually followed that. We're members of the Nebraska Wine and Grape Growers Association, and through that then to the Wine Passport and Nebraska Passport, and well then, with like say all the different festivals we've gone to over the years, it's created clientele basically that want to come visit us. So one of the things that we realized that a business like this, with our population base, we have, I think all of Cherry County is less than 10,000 people. So we have our local people then that come here and visit us on a Friday night, drive almost 90 miles for a local evening entertainment. So there's not a lot of facilities like ours. So I just want to end with, so like the last week of May, Lou had his 50th Jubilee celebration here, and we had several other, we had a weekend of Friday night pizza, and we had a dance Saturday night, and so we probably had quite close to over 1,000 people. Getting close to 1,000 people just in the last week of May that came here. Mm-hmm. And so like some of the people that came here, like for Father Lou's Jubilee, actually those were clear across the Grand Island Diocese. So that's part of how we build our clientele, is by people that we know and been associated with, not only Tim and I, but our whole family.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you said that, because you have very deep roots in the area, obviously, but your families are also very involved in the business. Talk about their role today and kind of what you hope that might look like in the future.
Yes. So my three children actually live here. The furthest is 8 miles from Nenzel. So it's probably something in itself that never dreamed that my three children would end up living in Nenzel. I guess I never. Anyway, so I guess with that being said, so they're involved in with in basically all aspects, from picking of the grapes to helping here in the tasting room, doing our the catering part of it, and providing the food and the meals and et cetera that are here, and that's why again, from my side, my children, that they're very much then involved in I mean, it's their dream also that to see this succeed. Mm-hmm. And so then Greg is also, and he can probably talk about it, but I mean, his kids then have been involved then in different ways.
So at most, all of my daughters are in Nebraska, but not locally. So the closest daughter, Stacy, is directly involved. She's now doing our managing our retail sales with our retail outlets. Then she does part of our marketing for our excuse me, God, it's frog in my throat. Excuse me. So anyway, with their involvement, basically she assists with some of our marketing efforts, basically social media and email blasts, and from that standpoint, then she does. All of my kids have their own families, but basically they do work occasionally, but basically that's all just kind of part time. Mm-hmm. So other than that, I guess we have to speak about our one full-time employee has been with us now for I think over 8 years, and so he has expressed real interest and basically is an integral part of our business. So we do have some youth involved. I guess I should say youth, but younger people involved in our business basically, so hopefully that this business will continue and go forward.
Well, most of the folks listening to this are people who have an interest, at least, in rural entrepreneurship. And what I think is so cool about your story is you really leaned into creating your own legacy, obviously creating more opportunities on the family ranch. What opportunities what advice would you offer someone who is looking to create opportunities for themselves in a rural place?
Well, I would just start by, probably be honest, sincere, in doing what you do, and then providing a good product or a good service that can't match. I guess we've been catering for over 30 years. Prior to that, and I'll just use that as an example, is the fact that we had day jobs, so we weren't looking for a lot of work, but we ended up having as much catering as we wanted to do without ever doing any physical advertising. It was then word of mouth. Somebody said, well, who would you advise then to have a meal catered? And so they would use our name, and so that was the start of that. And then that's, again, probably very key then to our success here is the fact that, with our wines, we've had then good wines. We've had multiple people tell us that we have the best dry Nebraska reds. And so I guess we pride ourselves on having, a quality product, quality service. And if you do that, and provide a service or something else that's not around, filling a niche, I guess, of what needs to be. So I think that's, you can do whatever you want to wherever you're at with things we have today, but you have to be able to have to fill a niche of something that's actually needed or works in your area.
Yeah. Well, sorry, go ahead.
Well, if I just add just a couple things. One of them is that the fact that the things that we did, is probably, I guess, if I get this right, my brother said, we live to work. We grew up working, and that's what we've done basically all of our lives. And say some other generations, like just work so they can live. So I guess the advice to an entrepreneur, it's not easy. If you're the owner and if you have to have a passion for what it is that you want to do. I think probably part of the passion here is we decided to settle and put down our roots. And I think anybody can do that as long as if you're willing to put some sweat equity into a business. I think anybody would be successful if you actually if you sincerely work at it. So it's not for the weak at heart, because I can Tim and I guess we can honestly say, I mean, so it's not like, it's not a get-rich-quick deal. So we've been at this for a good number of years, I guess, and because of that, I guess that's kind of where we're at today. But so if we were starting out a new business like how we started this last year, I mean, it would be very tough. But like say, if you start small and find a passion and find what works and find what you like to do, and then I think you'll be a success.
Well, I could pick your brain for hours, but I guess we'll end on this note. How rewarding is it for you to watch the community that you grew up in all gather on a Saturday night and have those face-to-face interactions when those are more and more sparse by the day, it seems?
You mean, it's very rewarding. I mean, when you have people come here, they say, well, this is, I mean, the wines are great. The food is great. This facility is amazing. You know, the design of it and complimenting on you what you have done. So I mean, again, we have tremendous community support, you know, and so that there is very rewarding.
We had a lady here from Kansas last week, and she was in awe, and her words constantly was that this is over the top. So I think I got. She wrote them down so I could actually get to use them. So, but I want to, along with that, you know, this facility is very unique. But then I guess we kind of put her in the classification as a Sandhills gem, because people are in awe that they can drive in the middle of nowhere and come to a facility. Establishment like this is and they're just in awe, and so it's, yeah, I guess we're awful proud. I guess it was a retiring National FA officer speech that I got to hear, so it's not the fact that we have to be here, we get to be here because we're the ones that created this. And I guess my only hope is that somebody will follow in our footsteps, and not only this business, hope there'll be another business down the road. That's what we like to see. We like to see young people live and grow up, how their families grow up in rural Nebraska.
Well, Tim and Greg, thank you so much for sitting down with us and sharing your story, not only of great wine, but also cultivating community here in the Sandhills. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Well, once again, that's Tim and Greg Nollette here at Niobrara Valley Vineyards in Nenzel, Nebraska. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to share with a friend. And of course, thanks to our friends at the Angler Agribusiness Entrepreneurship Program at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln for their support of this podcast. We'll catch you next time.